Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're breaking down the core identity, access, and boundary controls required for fundamental cybersecurity hygiene, specifically aligning with CMMC Level 1, which is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model certification for defense contractors in the United States or anyone who does business with the U.S. Department of Defense. But before we dive in, I just want to tell you a little bit about who we are. At CyberCare Pro, our mission is to help secure 10,000 small and medium-sized businesses and nonprofits from cyber risks that threaten their ability to do what they do best. And we do that by building clear pathways to education, accessible programs, cost-efficient programs, access to financing, access to training, so that risk becomes something that is understood and not something that is feared, and that more and more companies will protect their businesses. So a little bit about me, and my name is Marguerite Fleming. I am one of the consultants with CyberCare Pro. I have over 25 years experience in the technology industry, and I started my career at IBM, but I now focus in on cybersecurity governance, regulation, and compliance. I am in the process of getting my CMMC certified professional designation, which will allow me to be part of assessment teams. It's a little bit of a process because we have to get security checks. I am vCISO certified, and I've worked with hundreds of clients. I also have an MBA, and specifically that focuses in on strategic management of technology-based businesses. So the most important thing that you need to know about me is that as an advisor, I work with businesses on their security readiness, help them to put plans in place to become more resilient, and in the face of any kind of cyber attack, to be ready. So let's take a look at CMMC Level 1, where that is required. What are some of the core controls? So let's dive right into what it is and how it works. CMMC Level 1 is a part of it's both a law and a regulation and a policy within the US federal government to protect what they call foundational for federal contract information, or FCI. So if you hear that terminology as we go forward, that's what it's standing for, federal contract information. So first, let's talk about what that is and why do they want to protect this federal contract information? Well, anything that's not considered public is considered FCI, and they will state that closely. There are 120,000 companies in the United States that require to have this Level 1, and in Canada, this will become mandatory. The Canadian version of CMMC, which is called CPCSC, the Canadian Program for Cybersecurity Certification, right? That is also available now and will become mandatory as of next year. So, or as of later this year. So having these things in place is really important if you are working in the defense industry. Some of the key things that you can do or are included in Level 1. When you sign off on Level 1, by the way, when you do your self-assessment, either on the Canada Buys portal for CPCSC or in the SPURS portal for CMMC, you are essentially stating and signing a contract with the government that you have these controls in place. So you really want to spend some time to make sure, especially if you're responsible at the business level, for that sign off, okay? Because it has come back to organizations that fail to properly scope out and implement these controls. So first, let's talk about access management. Let's begin by defining who or what role-based authorization is. So now we're moving kind of like, okay, these are the things that we have to do in order to be able to qualify for that Level 1. So role-based authorization is key. It's one of the key controls. So this means explicitly mapping out authorized functions like who can read, create, update, or delete data. It also governs authorized transactions, setting strict boundaries on system interactions. But the gold standard here is enforcing the principle of least privilege, ensuring users only have the access necessary to do their jobs. And finally, remembering that configuring these roles isn't a free-for-all. It has to be managed exclusively by authorized administrators. Now, why does this matter so much? Because misconfigured roles and overly broad permissions are historically a leading cause of major data breaches. There are thousands, millions of stories of people who have access to things when they're no longer at the organization, or they have access to, let's say, HR or finance data or whatever, and they work in a different department. So this is incredibly important just for security, but from a cybersecurity perspective, very important about who can get access to what information inside your organization. So strong access control isn't just technical. It's about governance, about strict accountability, and ultimately it's about maintaining client trust and stakeholder trust that you are handling their sensitive information correctly. So moving to the foundation of compliance, we must limit access strictly to authorized users, devices, and processes with strong identity verification and device trust. So your supporting policies have to clearly cover account management, authentication standards, and provisioning. So let's look at some of the red flags to fix immediately. Things like weak passwords, shared credentials, and default manufacturer accounts. A top implementation tip here is to regularly review your user accounts, immediately disable ones that are inactive, and enforce multi-factor authentication or MFA wherever possible. So in CMMC Level 1, it is demanding a culture that's valuing security at every layer of identity management. And you need to be able to demonstrate that you have put the system in place to do that. So let's move to the perimeter around safeguarding the front lines of your network. You need to monitor and control communications at both external and internal system boundaries. So we achieve this using layered technologies for a true defense in-depth strategy. Now, this includes things like firewalls to block malicious ports, web proxies to filter traffic and hide user identities, routers just redistributing traffic via whitelists, and encrypted tunnels like VPNs to protect sensitive information in transit. So when it comes time for an audit, assessors will heavily examine your boundary documentation, live system configurations, and traffic monitoring processes. So, pro tip, as for deeper implementation details, refer closely to NIST 800, NIST SP 841, and NIST SP 853. These are two standards and control sets that are kind of foundational to Level 1. Your network boundary is your very first line of defense. So our goal here is to strengthen it with layered, well-documented controls. Now, let's address the critical data protection rule, keeping federal contract information, or FCI, off of public platforms. Publicly accessible platforms like corporate websites or social media or press releases must never contain FCI. So where this comes into play is, let's say you apply, you win this RFP, and you want to put it up on your website that you've done it. You can't do that without specific permissions to do that because it's considered FCI, federal contract information. The information that the government has contracted with you for a specific project is considered confidential. So NIST SP 800-171 outlines 5 core requirements to prevent this accidental or intentional exposure online. So organizations must implement documented procedures to review and approve all public content because the risks of noncompliance are severe, and heavy financial penalties, reputational damage, and an immediate loss of trust are what can happen if you don't follow this. So just to wrap up, here are your best practices. First, train your staff to recognize and protect FCI. Second, establish a strict, formalized content approval chain for all public communications. And third, be prepared to act swiftly to remove any sensitive data if it's accidentally posted online. Robust public information control proves to clients and assessors alike that your organization takes data protection seriously. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time today. And make sure, let's keep our networks secure. If you would like more information or to contact us for training, consulting, please feel free to use any of this information here. or on our website at cybercarepro.com. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Have a wonderful day.